Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in wherever you might be, watching on the stream, whatever. Bringing in Sal Capaccio here. Want to let you know it is the Turkey for Tickets drive, courtesy of, in partnership with the Buffalo Sabres and Odyssey and Tops. And you can donate a 20-pound turkey, or the equivalent of a 20-pound turkey, and get a voucher for a pair of tickets to the Sabres. Pick a game, bunch of games that are eligible. What you do, grab that 20-pound turkey, bring it to KeyBank Center's Surface Lot, Tops in West Seneca on Orchard Park Road, or Tops in Tonawanda on Young Street. Those are the three spots. They'll have people out there collecting the turkeys in this weather, which is kind of rough. So, thanks to the volunteers out there doing that, to all the people donating as well. It goes to the Buffalo City Mission and Feed More of Western New York. So raising food, collecting turkeys, and you get and you get tickets for the turkeys. Today's the annual drive, so help us be a part of it, and thank you in advance. Sal Capaccio joins us on the Western Hotline. Sal, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, guys. I'm well. Thanks.
Have you been? How have you been taking the? It feels like I've used this phrase before. Avalanche that's coming at the Bills right now in their offense. Like every national show, everybody who's anybody is coming after the Bills, and I don't know if saying they're dead or writing them off, but kind of noting just how right now really feels like it is the revelation of a big problem they have on offense. And the obvious question, Sal, is what can they do from here, right? We could talk about problems all we want, but solutions are what the Bills have to be in the business of right now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that at the end. Right? That's really what it comes down to. It's the same thing as what I've been saying for you're past the trade deadline. You can look at all the numbers you want. You can look at the personnel all you want, the coaching, the scheme, anything. There's no what's the famous line for Rick Pitino when he's coaching the Celtics, right? Robert Parrish ain't walking through that door. Kevin McHale ain't walking through that door, right? I mean, you're not fixing this by making a deal to bring in some elite level player that's going to help your roster that's on some other team right now. That can't happen. The trade deadline is over. So what you need to do is either search around to see maybe if there's a fit who's a free agent right now, like they signed Mecole Hardman. Now, whatever that turns into, they're obviously looking at Mecole Hardman to fit into the practice squad now and maybe join the 53. You could look at Gabe Davis. At some point, Gabe Davis is going to play here. There are going to be types of options like that. Now, Gabe Davis also, that's internal as well. And that's the other thing you have to do. You have to look internally. What can you do with the players on your roster? How can you help them? How can you scheme for them? What can they do to make sure they get better? That's exactly how you have to approach it now if you're the Buffalo Bills, which is you're not going out and getting these big-time, players and trading for them. So the solution, as you say, Jeremy, has to be here somewhere. So what do we have to do to try and help our guys? And what can we do to maybe look around to see if there's anybody else around that's available that can help us?
And what do we know about Davis's status right now, Sal? McDermott was asked about him maybe a little bit earlier in the week.
Yeah, so basically I asked him, I said, hey, you felt he was getting closer, then he had to lay off him a little bit. And he said, well, that's the thing, managing his health right now, meaning like the knee and all that, he practices and then you want to make sure that he gets through the practices. And I think Joe, basically what he's saying is you don't want to rush him out there and then suddenly you're like, well, he can't play the next week. You put him out there one week and then he can't the next week. And now you're in a situation where what are you doing with the roster? You kind of want to make sure that when he's ready to play, he's ready to play and you don't have any setbacks, you can go forward. But he's going to play at some point. I don't know exactly when. It could be this week. I mean, the fact that they signed Hardman to the practice squad yesterday, tells me that maybe, and they released Christian Wilkerson, by the way, maybe that means that they're ready to elevate Gabe. Now, they do have the same numbers, obviously, with that move. But at some point, yes, and the bottom line for him is keeping him healthy. That's basically what Sean McDermott said.
And what do you think if he gets back healthy, would mean for Coleman, Sal? I mean, I thought it was kind of stark when McDermott was asked about effort with Coleman earlier in the week, and he did give some credibility to, sometimes it's there and sometimes it could be better. And he continues to lead this team in snaps at that position. Do you think that they maybe want to not dial that back, or have at times thought he shouldn't be the guy that's out there the most, but we don't really feel comfortable with anybody else playing that same role to the same level, and here comes Davis, who used to play that role?
I do think that could be the case. And it is interesting, right? That you have this interesting, the way he acknowledged that and talked about him, but then you look at the snap counts. For the season, guys, Do you want to guess like where Coleman is compared to other receivers on the team, like percentage-wise?
He's number one
overall for the season.
Isn't he the number one snapped receiver?
It would be
he is.
Like how much more does he play than Shakir?
Right.
Is it like
right?
Is it 15% more?
Good guess. 71% for Keon, 60 for Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
The next guy. Now, granted, lots of injuries play into this. Tyrell Shavers at 32%. Your 3 top wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills on the field right now for the season. Now, again, Joshua Palmer, Curtis Samuel, there has been injuries here that have impacted this. Keon Coleman at 71%, Khalil Shakir at 60%, Tyrell Shavers at 32%. We talked when Gabe was signed. I remember the conversation, and we all said, well, look, it can't really just be a 1-for-1 for Tyrell Shavers because he's not going to be necessarily running down and playing all these special teams, right? That's not probably what his role is going to be. So where does he fit in? It might have to be for Keon Coleman. And now we advance the story on, and we're here where Sean McDermott is answering that question the way he did. And I just think it's a logical connection to make, right, Joe? Which is when Gabe Davis is ready to play, are you dialing back Keon Coleman, and in what capacity? But what I find interesting is Sean McDermott's the head coach. If he wanted to do that with Keon Coleman now, he could. But what you said is maybe they just can't. Maybe they don't really have an option to be able to do that right now. Maybe he's looking for that option to be able to do that, to send a message or however you want to phrase it for Keon. But yes, to me, there's going to be some sort of direct connection there.
And Palmer, Sal, like the last couple of weeks, like I guess how likely would you feel like going into this week that he's going to be ready to play against Tampa, or if even not that he's getting really close, if it's not going to be this week?
We'll see today what Sean McDermott says, what he does, but I would say that this is now 2 weeks since he actually started practicing. He did practice, I think it was Thursday 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly. It might have been Wednesday. But he did practice, and then he didn't play. And then last week he practiced pretty much all week, and we thought, okay, maybe that's when he comes back. He still didn't play last week, and I would tell you, though, but last week the difference was at the game in Miami, he was down on the field doing a workout with trainers before the game. Same with Taron Johnson. Like, that tells me he's getting closer. Like, he's out there doing things before the game, pregame, talking with trainers. How do you feel? I have no idea if he was close to playing last week or not based on that, but it feels to me like that would mean that he was, and a lot probably something this week to monitor that he would be back on the field possibly.
The names all together on the injury report we're like looking for today to see the updates. Is it Epinesa, Benford, Palmer, and Taron Johnson?
Yes, that would be it. And we know that Landon Jackson is not going to be practicing, and he's placed on IR now, guys, which is unfortunate for him. Obviously, he has a knee injury. I'm just looking through what Sean told us the other day. And then, Kincaid is week to week, so I would not anticipate him, practicing today or playing on Sunday. The other one is TJ Sanders. He's practicing this week. They're going to they opened his window. So we'll see. They have to, because even though he's on IR, once you go designated to return, he'll be on the injury report because they have to kind of list what he's doing.
With Jackson on IR, Sal, like, would you expect that? Do they have an open roster spot at this very moment? Like, that a defensive end is got to get either called up here or signed, because what do they have? Is it only 3 guys healthy right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, Joe. And then I want to also throw in, they do have an open roster spot because of what they did yesterday, because of the moves they made yesterday, because they brought in Hardman. Wilkerson was off. They put Landon Jackson on IR. That's the one active spot. But
could it be?
You could basically just say TJ Sanders could take that spot at the end of the week, but who knows?
Right.
So Rousseau, Bosa, no, Epinesa, not necessarily. You could roll with 4. If Epinesa is going to play, Rousseau, Bosa, Epinesa, and Solomon would be your 4 defensive ends. You could do it that way, right? But and then at some point maybe TJ Sanders gets activated. It doesn't have to be this week, and then we'll see if they roll with 52 or 53 this week, depending on that as well.
Morgan Fox also. The Bills worked out Morgan Fox, a defensive lineman, defensive end, who's been in the league and played a lot of games. He could be practice squad. He could be elevated. I did not see they signed him. They just worked him out. So a name to consider.
Yeah, and then they also
Kingsley
Jonathan, yes, from the practice squad. Right. So that was something they did as well.
Question for you on Palmer, and then we'll get some calls in here. Sal, if Josh Palmer comes back, I wonder if there will feel like, and with Kincaid out, this might just have naturally happened anyway, but with what's happened since Palmer left, if the offense will tweak and say, like, all right, we have to show teams that Josh Palmer is a weapon, is something to be worried about. Because one of the things, the bigger problems about the passing offense is teams feel like they don't have to respect anybody, right? And nobody has to be respected deep. Palmer, of course, we saw get by Atlanta a little bit. And I wonder if once he's ready to go back in, if there wouldn't be a little bit of a lean towards, we've got to start showing some stuff here just to get different looks defensively when we're passing the ball.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I just want to go back real quick to Morgan Fox, just so people know. He did have 6.5 sacks a few years ago, and then 5.5 after that. Like, he could be a pass rushing, like, I'm not saying he's Michael Hoyt. He would play that role, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wanted people to know, like, so I'm glad you brought him up, Jeremy, because we don't know. Like, they could wind up signing him. He would play that role. And because Landon Jackson's out, maybe you use Javon Solomon more as the true pass rush as a true defensive end, and then you bring him in. So I'm glad you brought him up. I just wanted to say how they're trying to piece that together. That could be somebody that would sign. As far as Palmer is concerned, yeah, I mean, once Palmer comes back, I do think it could look differently. What's really hurting the Bills is you're going to lose Dalton Kincaid here. Dalton Kincaid is such a big part of what they want to do, and there's no there's no fix for that because Dawson Knox can't be Dalton Kincaid, and Jackson Hawes can't be Dalton Kincaid. They can still lean into those guys running the ball. That's for sure. They can do that. But Joshua Palmer and Dalton Kincaid being out has been an issue. One of them being out has still been a problem, but it gets a little bit better. But Joshua Palmer coming back can at least help you maybe move some parts around on the offensive side. And we know that that's what Joshua Palmer does. He's a guy that can help you. He can separate better than the other guys in a lot of ways. He's a guy that can get down the field once in a while. We saw what he could do in the Atlanta game before he got hurt. So we'll see if he winds up playing this week and what that means for the receiver core. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for Samuel or Moore to play that role. For some reason, it just hasn't materialized for either one of them to be able to be that guy that they rely on to get down the field and throw the ball to him in that intermediate to deep area.
Sal Capaccio, let's get some calls in. John in Detroit. John, good morning. You're on with Sal Capaccio.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks, Sal, for all engaging with the fans. I really appreciate that. I guess my overall question, I think what's bothering me and a lot of fans is what was the purpose and thought process behind this massive philosophical shift on offense to this offense that used to spread the ball over the field? Allen, I think, from 2019 to 23 was second in pass attempts. They were passing the ball at every level of the field. And they went to this ball control offense. Now, the national narrative was the turnover narrative.
Yep.
Okay, and I ran some numbers. And in Allen's first 6 years starting with all of this passing, second in pass attempts, second in passing yards, he was identical in interceptions to Tom Brady. He had 6 more total turnovers than Tom Brady. And the biggest problem I have with that narrative, that national narrative, is one, it might have been a possible reason why this philosophical shift happened, but that's not why the Bills were losing games.
Right.
They were losing games. They were blowing leads in the regular season. The Patriots game in 23, the Eagles game in 23, the playoffs, collapses on defense. They weren't blowing games because Allen was shredding secondaries or because of turnovers. And so it just bothers me so much, Sal. And I know, it's not your fault that they took the John Elway of this era and turned him into Trent Edwards. I don't understand it. The archetype of the receivers completely changed. Excuse me. And I'll hang up and listen. It's just something that really bothers me. I went to the Bills-Chiefs game with my family. They won the game. And people in the stands were like, what is up with all these tunnel screens? Where are the throws down the field? So it's really weird. It's just weird to me.
Thanks, John.
Well, that's a good question, right? I mean, I think part of it is, I think one of the overarching philosophical changes or ways of thinking, it doesn't have to be a change, but I think that very understriking has been they want to keep Josh Allen as healthy as possible for the entire season to have him healthy in the playoffs. And I'm not telling you sitting here that we know that he's started and played a lot of games, and even playing back then, he did have some injuries, but, it was not like, missing games, thankfully. But I think that's one of the big things that's happened here. I said this the other day with Chopin Bulldog. If everybody listens, if you just listen to things that McDermott says and Bean says, you just file them away and you think about things that they say, little clues here and there. One thing that's always popped up for the last 2 years is them always talking about keeping Josh healthy. And he said it the other day, Sean McDermott did, about like Josh is our leader and we have to keep. He said he had to keep him healthy. Like he said that, and I'm telling you, they have made a conscious effort to make sure they play the long game, to have the best quarterback in the league, one of the best quarterbacks in the league MVP, whatever you want to call him, elite. Yes, we all know that. To make sure that when they get to the playoffs, that guy is the guy behind center throwing it. I'm not here to tell you anybody that, oh my God, that's the right approach, and you could. Yes, you can probably still do that in another way. But I do think that's a big reason why this has happened.
So to that point, Sal, like I agree. Like I think, and that goal, I think there are reasons to have that goal. The problem, maybe the bigger problem, is what they've got now is a Josh Allen that is getting smacked around an awful lot.
Because and partly because we think the receivers can't get open early enough for him to get rid of the ball.
Sure.
So that's happening. And there have been some O-line issues and blitzing and things like
blitz
that.
Pickups.
The way teams are playing the Bills because of it.
Answers against the blitz, like without even saying it has to be one thing, that has to be something that if you're McDermott, like you go back and watch the film, if you're Brandon Beane, watch the film, and you see like, man, my guy is just at the Atlanta game, right? The number of shots that he's taken, like we gotta make sure that this is not happening. I don't want this to happen every week because. Sure, he's not dropping back enough. Maybe he's not jumping over linebackers enough. But
if he's holding the ball longer,
all of a sudden he is circling in the pocket, taking way more sacks than last year. Like that is got to be a problem.
Yeah, and the other part of it for me is, and again, listen to what people tell you and what they say. And this part of it, I do agree with philosophically in football, just at its root core. You can control the game when you dominate up front and have a great running game. You can. It gives you less margin for error, though. That's the issue, right?
Yep.
When you can run the ball the way the Bills run the ball, and we've seen this happen. It doesn't happen every week. It doesn't mean it's foolproof, no doubt. But when you can run the ball the way the Bills have, and they've built this offensive line and this run game and have this great running back like they have, you can control the game way more than when you have to rely on playing the way the Cincinnati Bengals do, for example, right? And having, oh my God, we have to throw the ball all over the place, and who knows, and they're going to come down and score on us, and we give them the ball back. Again, not an excuse, just reasons. I'm just telling you, like the philosophical, and I agree with that philosophy in football in general, but I also will tell you it leaves you less margin for error in games. And I'll give you the greatest example is the last 2 weeks, guys.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, the Bills just controlled the game against the Chiefs. Like, at any point in the game, nobody thought, oh, my God, the Chiefs are, like, pulling away. Like, the Bills came out early. They established the run. They used play action. They controlled the game from the start. And they were never not in control of that game. Like, and then they took it home because of that. What happened last week? Because they couldn't do that, what we just talked about, and I said, and control the game on the ground and do the things they normally do and get first downs, suddenly you're playing a high-variance game, and bam, here come the Miami Dolphins on one or two plays. Now you have to start, okay, and I agree, like you should be able to have Josh Allen just sit back there and throw, BBs and darts across the field. I get it, and that hasn't happened. But they didn't control the game. The exact example would be the last 2 weeks and the contrast in which these games were played.
Do you think that could simply just be boiled down to, Sal, that the Bills right now are just a team where they have to have the lead? Like if they get
Joe,
ahead
I
and they
think
control a
yes.
game. Because really, since Baltimore's maybe the anomaly here because that was a game where they came back. That since then, whenever they do get down, that's when a lot of their biggest problems start to get highlighted.
Yes, I think that this team, the way they're constructed and the way their philosophies are controlling the game, I think you have to have a lead to really be able to do that and lean into it. Now, Joe Brady said a few weeks ago, well, we've shown we can throw the ball and we need to throw it. Look what happened in the Baltimore game. And that's not wrong. They did that, no doubt about it. But I think in general, over the long haul, it is tough for this team to play that type of football and play from behind and have that ability because of how they have structured themselves and say, we're going to control the game. And guess what? When they get the lead, it's going to be really tough on the other team to really have to kind of come back and play with you because you're good. You're just going to lean on your run game. You're going to make sure that the Bills going into the Dolphins game were number 1 in the league in time of possession, I believe. And then the Dolphins just completely dominated the first half, and then the Bills, it got better in the second half, by the way. But that was a real big example right there. Yes, Joe, I think to answer your question, getting the lead is a really big deal for this team and the way they want to play football, I think.
Sal, the Brian Daboll story came up at the press conference on Monday. Sean McDermott asked about it because he had been fired maybe 20 minutes before. I wouldn't expect it to happen soon, but what do you make of that idea? Just conceptually, the idea, I know that it might lead to politics and Joe Brady being undermined or feeling unsafe, but just in general, when that idea gets brought up to you, what's your feeling on it?
My feeling is generally that it's just a lot of times way more of a, I'm not going to say negative. There's just a lot to deal with there when things like that happen. You bring someone in like that with that name, what he means to this organization and this fan base and to this quarterback, I think you're asking for a lot more distraction and storyline than you want to deal with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love Brian Daboll. I think he's great. And Josh Allen loves him.
Well,
that's not, that's not the issue, right? But I mean, I don't know, Jeremy, you could respect this point when I say when Adrian Autry took over for Jim Boeheim and Jim Boeheim's still sitting behind him 2 rows in the stands when he's coaching a game, that is not good.
Right. Yeah, I think there's 2 different ways to answer it. There's right now, I think that's all correct. How about as a remove this year from it? How about the likelihood of a reunion?
Likelihood, I don't think so. I think that it feels like Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll aren't on the same page necessarily. We've documented that. We've talked about that. Whatever that. And I'm not saying they hate each other. I don't know all that, but it just feels like they're not guys. But although maybe they feel like they're better together than without each other, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe that could be the case. So I don't know. I don't want to get into that because I'm not sure of the exact dynamic of that relationship. But here's what I want to say to anybody who keeps saying, and I got how many texts did we all get or tweets we all get? Oh, my God, just go hire Brian Daboll right now. The one thing that people don't think about is...
Your podcast partner, Matt Bove, said it right away.
Okay, that's great. And I'm going to say this to Matt and anybody else.
I know.
Why does nobody consider what Brian Daboll might want?
Well...
You can't just go to Brian Daboll and go, oh, we're going to hire you. Oh, great. Brian Daboll is under contract to the Giants still and getting paid, by the way. He is a head... Yeah. Does he... my guess is... Knowing Brian Daboll the way I know him, sure, maybe he would want to. I'm going to go back and work with Josh. He also might just want to sit back and go, you know what? I just got fired. I want to survey the land. I want to see what my next move might be. I got a family here to think about and where we're going to live and what's going to happen in my future. And I'm a football coach. It's not that easy to just say, come on home and come to Buffalo and join the staff and, and be a sidekick to Joe Brady. And you can't just do that. The guy, I don't know Brian Daboll would ever want to do that.
Right. It depends because you get both. Some guys go away on a beach for 6 months and then Robert Saleh last year signed up to work back in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So sometimes, as a consultant.
And now what is he? He's
their defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, that's right. And that is a great example that people brought up. And I think Vic Fangio might have done that, right?
Yep.
When he went
with Philly a couple years ago.
Yep. And that's exactly right. And maybe that works for some guys, right? Maybe it's hey, I want to get right back in the game and I can't be out of it, and that's cool. And they have to have that dynamic and relationship with the organization and coach and all of that. It just feels to me like I could be totally wrong. Brian doesn't strike me as a player, as a person just going to be itching to go do that right away. And he might want to be hey, I want to see what's going on here. You have to consider the other side. To me, it's not unlike trading. Why didn't Brandon Beane make this deal? Well, can you tell me if that deal was available to him, right? I don't know. You don't know what the other side is thinking. And that's the point. It's not as simple as just calling him up and saying, we want you on staff. Okay, no. Great. I've been waiting for this.
Don't we feel like anyone that's bringing up the Daboll idea right now anyway? I think the point I always hear attached to it, Sal, I don't know if I've heard you on the calls on Allen looks sad on the sidelines when they show him on TV. I think maybe the people that want Daboll now are the people that
just want to save Josh.
They just want a guy that can light a fire under him on the sidelines because Daboll used to do that early in his career. Diggs used to do that too, and obviously I don't really, at least on TV, they're not really showing anybody that's kind of getting into him and lighting him up on the sidelines.
I don't blame anybody for wanting Brian Daboll, and for that reason. I just don't. I get it. I totally get it. And he's a fantastic coach, and Josh was amazing with him. Yeah, that's right. I don't blame anybody for that. I just think there's so many dynamics that people don't think about that come along with things like that, that it's not as simple as a lot of people want to make it out to be.
Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Sal Capaccio. He'll be covering practice today. Sal joining us on the Western Hotline. 803-0550. Here's what you do. You just wait till the offseason. You bring that contract to the Queen of Heaven Carnival. And you're like, yo, what do you think? Right?
Love it. He'll be there.
Yes.
He's always there.
803-0550, our phone number. 1-888-550-2550.